Welcome back to World According to Briggs. Today we're looking at 10 US cities losing their middle class faster than a college kid's apartment loses its security deposit. These are places that used to offer stability, one decent job, one affordable house, a backyard, and maybe even a lawnmower that didn't require prayers to start. But over the last 20 plus years, factories have closed, costs rose, wages stayed flat, and suddenly the entire region went from a solid middle class to we're almost poor. Let's count down the 10 cities losing their middle class. Number 10, Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Rocky Mount was once the textile heartbeat of eastern North Carolina. Old-timers still talk about the days when the mills buzzed day and night, and a high school diploma was the only thing standing between you and a solid middle-class lifestyle. The city's identity was built on manufacturing. Socks, sheets, yarn, denim, you name it. And for decades, it worked. You had stability, pensions, and holidays that didn't include stress over rent. Your only stress was probably having to deal with your mother-in-law hinting that her daughter didn't marry well. Then the early 2000s arrived, and the textile industry collapsed like a Temu folding chair. Factories closed, moved overseas, automated, or just shut their doors. Entire neighborhoods saw incomes drop, and the city never fully replaced those high-paying blue-collar jobs. A few distribution centers and warehouses opened, but they pay less and offer fewer benefits. You don't rebuild the middle class with jobs that don't provide a middle class paycheck. Now, I'm not saying they don't have any manufacturing whatsoever. They've still got some, just not what they once had. In 1999, 22.3% of Rocky Mount's residents worked in production manufacturing. By May 2024, that had dropped to 11.6%. According to the Department of Labor and Statistics. To make things worse, the cost of living surged, especially for essentials. Groceries jumped faster than wages, housing crept up, and childcare costs exploded. While North Carolina as a whole became more expensive, Rocky Mount didn't get those high-end jobs to offset the pain. It got bills and no income. One resident summed it up perfectly. Rocky Mount didn't get more expensive, my paycheck got smaller. Same job, same hours, just somehow less money. It's like welcome to the 2025 economy. Number 9, Rockford, Illinois. Rockford used to be the kind of city where factories weren't just employers, they were family traditions. Generations worked in heavy manufacturing, aerospace, and auto part plants. You'd get a job at Woodward or one of a dozen machine tool companies, and boom, you were in the middle class. Mortgage approved, and maybe even a boat owner. Then Illinois' manufacturing sector suffered a long, ugly decline. Automation, outsourcing, and corporate consolidation hit Rockford hard. Tens of thousands of high-paying industrial jobs evaporated between 2000 and 2020. Replacement jobs? Mostly service sector and healthcare roles that pay less and offer fewer benefits. At the same time, Illinois' taxes skyrocketed. Property taxes became a punchline, sales taxes climbed, and even utilities cost more than residents expected. When the middle class loses income and gets hit with higher costs, the math stops working. Rockford's population slid, income stagnated, and the median household buying power shrank like jeans in a dryer. One resident said, "I lived in the same house my dad bought in the 1980s. We earned the same job title. Somehow, I'm broke and he retired early. Make it make sense. Somebody." Number 8, Stockton, California. Stockton grew fast thanks to construction, agriculture, and warehouses supporting Bay Area commuters. But the Great Recession nuked its middle class. Construction collapsed, the housing market imploded, and the city became one of the first in the US to declare bankruptcy. Today, Stockton's wages lag far behind California's brutal cost of living. Rent is up, insurance is up, groceries are up, everything is up except for paychecks. The middle class is still there, but only because they've learned to stretch a dollar to Olympic levels. One Stockton resident simply said, "We moved here because it was cheaper than the Bay. Now it's not. And Nevada looks better every single paycheck." Number 7, Mansfield, Ohio. Mansfield was once a factory town powerhouse. Steel mills, tire plants, auto suppliers, the kind of jobs where you could clock in, earn $25 an hour, complain about management, and still buy a comfortable home. It was the American dream with a Midwest twist. But the early 2000s hit Mansfield like a wrecking ball. Major factories closed, including GM's stamping plant and multiple industrial employers that had been around for generations. By the late 2010s, Mansfield had lost a massive share of its middle-income residents as stable jobs were replaced with low-wage service sector work. Now the twist here is Mansfield still looks affordable until you live there. Utilities, groceries, vehicle insurance, and medical costs have all risen faster than incomes. People think cheap housing equals comfortable life, but Mansfield proves it doesn't work that way when everything else is expensive. So it's a little deceiving because the homes are very affordable. The average home value here is $145,000, and that's late 2025 in case you're watching this a year from now. A mortgage for a house at that price is pretty easy to pull off if you're making $25 an hour. One resident said, "My mortgage is cheap, my life is not." Number 6, Fort Wayne, Indiana. Fort Wayne is a city people always bring up when they want to argue about the Midwest making a comeback. It has new apartments, breweries, food halls, a fresh downtown, all the urban renewal buzzwords. But behind the PR makeover is a middle class that has been quietly shrinking for decades. Now, all that renewal of Fort Wayne is true. It's just their blue-collar jobs are fading away and being replaced by tech jobs. Fort Wayne lost a huge share of its manufacturing jobs between 2000 and 2015. Auto parts, industrial machinery, and aerospace suppliers scaled back or switched to leaner operations with fewer workers. Most of the new job growth since then has been in healthcare, logistics, and hospitality. Industries essential for the city, but not known for middle-class wages. Meanwhile, Indiana's affordability advantage is fading. Rents have risen sharply since 2020. Property taxes have crept upward, and energy costs surged in recent years. Fort Wayne is still cheaper than Chicago, but that doesn't help when your paycheck doesn't stretch far enough. One local said, "People from outside the state think Fort Wayne is cheap. People who actually live here know it's not." Number 5, Michigan City, LaPorte, Indiana. Michigan City LaPorte once had the kind of diversified industrial economy that kept households stable. Manufacturing, rail transport, shipping, and a mix of blue-collar employers that paid well enough to support a middle-class life. But the region's economy hasn't grown much in the last 20 years. In fact, it's gotten smaller. Manufacturing jobs still exist, sure, but they've been automated, consolidated, or downsized. Employment numbers dropped while costs rose. The region struggled to replace lost factory jobs with higher wage modern industries. The local economy now leans heavy into low-wage service jobs, big box stores, and tourism from Chicago weekenders, none of which support a middle-class lifestyle. Then the pandemic hit and unemployment briefly shot up past 20%, a sign of how fragile the economy had become. Even as jobs returned, wages didn't rise enough to keep up with inflation. Rent went up, utilities went up, insurance and taxes went up. The only thing that didn't go up was paychecks, like so many of these cities on this list. And it's too bad. This is a nice part of America. Sure, it's outside of Chicago and Gary, but it's still decent. It's right there in Lake Michigan. It's seen some better times. You could still buy a house in Michigan City for under $200,000. For $250,000, you can get something really nice. One resident said, "Michigan City didn't collapse. It slowly faded like an old photograph." Number 4, Hickory, North Carolina. Hickory was once the furniture capital of America. Seriously, this place built half the stuff your parents' house still has. Woodworking, furniture assembly, carpentry, these jobs paid well. They offered benefits and supported the entire region. Middle-class stability was practically carved into the dining room table they shipped out. Then globalization happened. Furniture manufacturing in North Carolina fell off a cliff. Factories closed, production moved overseas, and the automation cut the remaining workforce. Hickory lost tens of thousands of jobs between 2000 and 2015. The recovery has been slow, uneven, and heavily reliant on low-wage sectors. Sure, you used to make $30 an hour doing woodwork. Now you're the assistant manager at Dollar General. Enjoy that $11.50 an hour. Meanwhile, North Carolina's cost of living is rising. The state that used to be affordable for everyone is now affordable if you make tech money in Raleigh. Hickory didn't get the tech boom, it just got the bills. A local furniture worker said, "We used to make good stuff, now we can't afford good stuff." Number 3, Jackson, Michigan. Jackson spent decades as a secondary auto hub. Not Detroit level big, but close enough that its economy was tied to the Big Three's mood swings. When Detroit sneezed, Jackson got the flu. When Detroit had an economic meltdown, Jackson had pneumonia. In case you've never heard of Jackson, a lot of people haven't, but it's a decent city in Michigan with a lot of history. If you don't know where it is, it's west of Ann Arbor, right down to Interstate 94. First thing you notice here is it's only got half the vacant lots that most Michigan cities have. When the economy got really bad, people would abandon their homes and eventually the city would just come in and mow them down because homeless were there and just all kinds of weird stuff was happening in abandoned homes. Jackson has some of those, but it's not epidemic level like you find in a lot of cities in the Rust Belt. But major employers closed plants, they downsized, they went heavy into automation. The old union jobs disappeared, the new jobs pay far less. Research shows Jackson's middle class shrank dramatically between 2000 and 2020, with a sharp rise in lower income households. While housing prices are still reasonable, everything else has become expensive. You can get a house here for about $200,000. Rent is rising faster than wages here, so it might be worth it to buy a house if you decide to move there. Groceries cost more, insurance costs more, gas costs more. Michigan residents might as well be taxed for breathing at this point. One Jackson resident summed it up perfectly. I can buy a house here, I just can't afford to live in it. Number 2, Goldsboro, North Carolina. Goldsboro had a solid middle class built on tobacco, manufacturing, and agricultural support industries, as well as jobs connected to Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. But tobacco collapsed, manufacturing moved or automated, and local wages stagnated. According to a few economic studies, Goldsboro had one of the largest middle class declines in the entire country between 2000 and 2014, and the trend has continued. Middle income households dropped sharply while lower income households rose. Even worse, Goldsboro didn't get the North Carolina housing boom benefit. Other cities saw rising wages to match rising costs. Goldsboro just got the rising costs. That's it. That's all they got. One resident said, "We lost the tobacco jobs, then the factory jobs, then the stores that depended on those jobs. Middle class didn't stand a chance." All right, before we get to number 1, if you're thinking about moving to one of these places or moving out of one of these places, there's a link for a website called Home and Money in the description area below. It's a great website to help you buy a house. And the best part, they can get you in touch with the real estate agent anywhere in the country. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, Springfield, Ohio. Springfield may be the number 1 middle class casualty in the last 2 decades. In the 80s, it was considered a model American city. Strong industry, low crime, good schools, and good paying factory jobs. It practically printed middle class families. Then the factories left. Then the suppliers left. Then the people left. Between 1999 and 2014, Springfield's inflation-adjusted median income fell more than 25%, one of the biggest drops in the country. The middle-class share of the population dropped dramatically, and private sector jobs stagnated. Springfield was hit so hard, it became a case study for economic decline. Today, Springfield still has affordable housing, but affordable doesn't matter when wages don't keep up. Now, you're going to think I'm joking here, but you could buy a house there, $90,000. Now, that's no joke. Their average home value is actually $69,000. But homes that need some work, like a good amount of work, can go as low as $77,000, $90,000, somewhere in there. A house that doesn't need a ton of work, $150,000. Springfield's got a host of other problems. You really probably don't want to move there. But if you're willing to do it, it's affordable. They just don't have jobs. And the middle class is pretty much gone. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a great day, be nice to each other.